Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel, Brandy Janae's Bookshelf. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the manga series that I started in 2020 that I would like to continue on with or finish in 2021. So in 2020, I got quite a few mangas that were new to me that, like I said, I do want to continue or finish in 2021. I think I actually have 21 manga series that I would like to either continue on with or finish in 2021. So starting off with the first series I would like to continue on with, and that is Fire in His Fingertips. A flirty fireman ravishes me with his smoldering gaze. Super long subtitle. But this one is by Kawano Tanishi. I don't believe I actually talked about this one on my channel because I read this, I think, right before I came back, I'm pretty sure. I ended up really enjoying this for the most part, and I know that there's already a volume 2 out for the series. I'm not really sure how many volumes this series is going to be, but I know for sure, like I said, as of right now, there is one other volume out, and I would just like to make sure that I am caught up with whatever this series is by the end of the year. I didn't really talk about this, sorry about that. So this is a series following Rio and Soma, and I believe they are I don't know if they're childhood friends or they're just friends from at some point in their lives. Rio is a girl, Soma is a boy. Soma is a firefighter, and Rio is constantly trying to set Soma up with, I believe, her friends or co-workers or something like that. She's always trying to set him up with other girls, and it just never seems to work out for whatever reason. And they don't really get into why it doesn't work out. Then one day there is a fire in Rio's apartment, and she is following the instructions that Soma gave her, which is to make as much noise as possible so that the firemen, when they come, they know that there's someone alive there and they can come help find you, or they can come find you with all the noise you're making. And she's doing that, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but she gets scared or something and she stops making the noise like he told her to, and he freaks out because he's one of the people who's called in. But of course, having had that fire in her building, she now has nowhere to stay, and he offers to let her stay at his place, and of course that leads to a sexual relationship between the two, which I'm guessing is going to lead into an actual romantic relationship. I'm gonna have to reread this because I don't remember all of the details. It's been a minute since I read this one, but this is definitely one of the series that I want to continue on with in this year. Moving on, the next one that I have that I'm going to talk about is one that I checked out from the library, and that is Dawn of the Akerna, and I think this one was by Toma. We're following this girl who is the princess of a kingdom. She ends up being forced to marry a neighboring kingdom's prince in order to stop a war that is brewing between the two kingdoms. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this because I did read this kind of a while ago, but I remember after I finished the first volume, I enjoyed it enough to where I wanted to continue on. I was very intrigued because there was mention of little things, especially the magic system that was going to be explored more in the series. I don't know for sure if I want to pick up physical copies of these. I'm going to read more from the library first to see how I'm feeling, and then depending on how it goes, I might eventually pick up physical copies and collect the series. Next, I have My Love Story. I think this one is by Kazune Karahara. This one is a story that is following this guy in high school, and he has never really had the best luck in love because of the way he looks. He gets his first chance at love after he ends up helping save this girl on a train, and I'm pretty sure that the series is just following him and exploring their new relationship. And I thought the first volume was so cute. I thought it was absolutely adorable, and I appreciated the fact that it was like a different type of love story than what you typically get in a shoujo manga series. So I'm looking forward to continuing on with that one. Moving on, the next one that I have is Komo Comfort City. This one is by Maki Manami. In 2020, I read the first 2 volumes of this series, and there are 5 volumes total, I believe. This is a series that I'm kind of like in the middle on, but since it is so short, I wanted to finish it. This one is following this girl who comes from a very wealthy family. However, at the beginning of the story, something happens where her family loses all of their money and they kind of leave her to fend for herself. And a boy that used to be a servant of hers in childhood has now come back into her life and offered to take care of her. He just asks that she works for him at his bakery. And he has completely changed from the boy that she used to know, and he almost kind of bullies her as much as possible now. The next series that I'm going to talk about is Happy Sugar Life by Tomiyaki Kaki Sora. I read both volumes 1 and volume 2. This series is following this girl named Sato. She used to be this girl who was kind of just going out with anyone. At the start of the series, she says that she has found the love of her life and that she's done with anyone else. Now she's going to dedicate her life to making the best life possible with the love of her life. No one really knows who this person is, where they came from, and what's going on. All they really know from what Sato has told them is that she's working multiple part-time jobs in order to support herself and this person. And then we follow Sato as she goes home, and we find out that it's this little girl who is living with her. We don't know who this little girl is, where she comes from, but I think eventually we do see that the girl is listed, or her picture is on a missing poster that's being handed out by this boy. And as we start to get a little bit further into the storyline, we start to figure out that there's more going on to the story than we initially think there is, and it's a lot darker than what these covers convey. On to series number 6, and that is 10 Count by Rahito Takarai. This one is following this guy named Shirotani, who is a germaphobe and has OCD, and he is struggling with living in the world full of germs. And one day his boss gets into this accident, and through that he ends up meeting up with the therapist who agrees to help him try to overcome his old OCD. In the beginning processes of starting his treatment, he starts to develop feelings for the therapist, and of course that is not always going to lead to the best situation. I think that this is a series that is only 6 volumes if I'm not mistaken. Next I have Cutie and the Beast by Yuhi Azumi, and this is an age gap romance following Momoka and Kuga. So Momoka is a high school student, but she is 18 years old. Kuga is 29 and he is a professional wrestler. The two of them start a friendly online interaction on Twitter, I believe. Eventually the two of them end up meeting in person at one of his events, and that leads to them exchanging numbers and having a more personal relationship. The next one that I have is Komi Can't Communicate by Tomihito Oda. This one is kind of focusing on 2 different characters. We have Tadano and Komi. So Tadano is the character that we're following the story through his perspective. He's starting high school and he's going in with the plan of just having an average time at school because his previous middle school days were not the greatest. So he just wants to go in, have a pretty average life. However, things don't go as planned, of course, when he ends up meeting Komi. She is deemed as being the class princess because everyone thinks she's very poised. However, he ends up finding out that she just has a problem with communicating. She does whatever she can to get around that. And because of that, people think that she is very different than, you know, like I said, than how she actually is. And she wants to make a goal of making 100 friends, and Tadano makes it his mission to help her make those 100 friends. Next one is kind of unexpected for me, and this one is Assassination Classroom by Yusui Matsu. It's a very strange manga series, but I thought it was funny, and I'm curious to see because it seems like it's going to get darker. The next series that I have is Coyote by Renbaru Zarya. So I did read both volumes 1 and 2. The series is following 2 characters, but it's mainly focusing on Coyote, who is a werewolf, and he's part of this clan who is about to be in basically an all-out war with this human family. He ends up getting intertangled with this guy named they have nicknames at the beginning of the story, so he calls him Marlene, but I think he does eventually find out his real name, which I'm not going to reveal, because it could be kind of a spoiler. But the guy who he calls Marlene ends up finding out that he's a werewolf because he goes into heat in front of him, and of course the guy offers to help him out, and from that they start a relationship. But of course, being that Coyote is a werewolf and other things that are also happening as well, their relationship is a little complicated. The next series that I have is My Senpai is Annoying by Shiramanta. This was actually previously a web comic that was turned into a manga, but I read volume 1 in 2020, and then I ended up picking up volume 2 and volume 3 at the end of 2020, and I haven't gotten to these yet, but I will be getting to them soon. But this is the series following this character named Futaba, and that is the woman here on the cover. She is actually very small, so small she looks like a child, but she is an adult, and she started at this new job, and she finds her direct supervisor kind of annoying. As we progress through this first volume, it looks like there is possibly going to be a romance between the 2 characters. So the next one I'm going to talk about is one of those that is currently digital only, and that is My Boss is Kitten by Yumi Hasawa. This is pretty much following a woman after she gets left at the altar when she's supposed to be getting married. It follows her getting into a relationship with her boss and the progression of their relationship and how things are going to work out. I think there are a total of 7 volumes. This series is complete. The next one that I have is Blackbird by Kanoko Sakurakuji, and this one is another shoujo title that is following a girl who is able to see demons, and because of her blood she ends up being entangled with a lot of demons trying to kill her. That's a very simplified version of what the series is following. Next I have Sweetness and Lightning by Guido, Amigo, Hori, and this one is a series that is following the single father as he has to raise his daughter after his wife passes away, and a high school student of his as they come together to just have a little bit of companionship in cooking and food. I think this is another series that is completed, so I just want to get some progress done on this. The next series that I have is Black Butler by Janna Teposo. Okay, the next series that I'm going to be talking about is Sweat and Soap by Kentetsu Yamada. I actually read all of the volumes that are currently out this year or in 2020. So volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, and volume 4. All of these came out in English in 2020, and I read all of them. So the story starts off following Asako, who is the woman on the cover, and Notori, who is the guy here. They both work for the same company, Lily Drop. Asako actually works in the finance department, I believe, and Notori is on the research and development team. Growing up, Asako has always had a really strong body odor, and she's been very insecure about that. And she believes that this company, Lily Drop, is the only company soap that she feels masks her scent enough for her to be happy. And one day she's admiring their newest collection when Notori walks past her and he smells her, and he really enjoys the way she smells, and he asks her to let him sniff her every day in order to get inspiration for the new scent that he's trying to develop, or the new line he's working on. The story starts off with a very weird premise, but I will say that although him smelling her does continue throughout the series, it definitely tones down a lot after the first volume. The next one that I have is Children of the Wells by Abby Umeda. So we're following the civilization of people who are living on this mud island, I guess is basically what I call it, and it's floating on a sea of sand. And they don't really have any connection to anyone or know anything about anything that is going on outside of their little floating island. And occasionally they do come across other islands that are similar to theirs. However, there has never been anyone on those other islands. They kind of just go and scavenge for things that they need from there. But one day they come across one of these islands and there's a girl living there, and it seems that she knows more about the world than anyone on this island does. I don't think I'll be able to completely get caught up with the series because it is technically still ongoing, but I think as of right now there are like 19 or 20 volumes out. The next one that I'm going to talk about is Anonymous Noise by Ryoko Fukuyama. This one is another series that I'm kind of on the fence about. I do want to continue on just to see where it's going to go to decide if I'm going to read the entire series. This one is following a character, or it's following several characters really, but I think one of the main focuses is going to be Nina, which is the girl that's on the cover. She has had a couple friendships from her childhood with two different boys who were really meaningful in her life, but for one reason or another both boys end up leaving her life, and she has not really dealt well with that, which is part of the reason why she's walking around wearing a face mask all the time. We get a little bit of backstory into her and her relationship with the boys and meeting them and things like that. And then we fast forward to her starting high school. When she starts at this new school, she ends up running into one of the boys from her childhood, and then it also looks like we're going to also see the other boy, the first boy, reappear. Looks like he is starting at the school as well. So next I have An Incurable Case of Love by Maki and Joji. I think this might be one of two kind of cheaty series on this list. I did just double check and it looks like I actually read volume 1 in 2019, so it's a bit cheaty, but we're gonna just go with it because I read the majority of it in 2020. An Incurable Case of Love is following this nurse named Nanasi. When she was younger, she had something happen where she came across this older lady who passed out or something like that, and she didn't know what to do, and this young doctor who was still in his residency helped her out, and because of that she decided she wanted to become a nurse so that she could work with him. Fast forward all of this, fast forward however long it took her to go through nursing school and everything like that. Now she's a nurse and she applies to work at the hospital that Dr. Tendo works at. And she gets there and realizes that he's not exactly how she thought he was from when she was younger. I'm pretty sure that this series is wrapping up in 2021. So it is a series that I'm hoping that I can finish off this year. Second to last one I'm going to be talking about is the other kind of cheaty one. And that's because I have read this entire series previously. This is a series that I would definitely like to get through all of this year. I was so close to being done and my battery died. So let's finish this up. But that is Denjiki Daisy by Kiyosuke Motomi. And the final series that I have to talk about in today's video is Prince Freya by Kiko Ishihara. And this is a shoujo title following this girl named Freya, and she actually looks exactly like the Prince of Tyr. And after some events where he's poisoned and dies, she's kind of recruited to take his place. I read volume 1 at the end of 2020, but I have actually read both of these in this month, so I am technically at this point caught up where the series is. I'm trying to talk and my mind, like, I don't know if I'm making sense anymore, so I'm gonna leave that there. Those are all 21 of the manga series that I started or read the majority of in 2021 or 2020 that I would like to continue this year. That's all I have for you guys in this video. If you like to give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys again in the next one. Bye.